Jai Hind everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel, which is Explore Yourselves, Banking and General Knowledge, etc. From Mailroom to Corner Office, A Banker's Journey by Dr. R. Srinivasan. Cover page of the book. Today, that is 29th April 2025, I am sharing episode 3. YouTube link of episode 1 and episode 2. Childhood and school days continuing. My mother's father, who was in his 80s, was also living in my village for some time with my maternal uncle Raghunathan's family. My grandfather used to get a money order every month from another of my uncles, Narsiman, who was working in the military accounts office far away in the city of Meerut in Uttar Pradesh. Once my grandfather quietly slipped some coins, 6 annas, a rupee was made up of 16 annas, into my hands and asked me to keep it a secret and use the money for my studies. He was supposed to give all the money he received in the money order to Raghunathan, and so his passing some of it to me was to be a closely guarded secret. Around this time, maybe in 1940 or 41, my elder sister, aged about 11 years, Chillam, was married to Mr. D. Srinivasan. Without any planning or preparation, the marriage took place within a period of just 10 days. It was only later that I came to know the story of how this happened. During one of his visits to the nearby town of Kumbakonam, a town of temples about 12 miles from my village in the Tanjavur district, my father was asked by some friends as to why he should not get his daughter married. My father pleaded that he did not have enough money to celebrate a wedding. One of the people who suggested marriage said that a bridegroom was readily available, and if it was only a question of money, he was prepared to loan my father any amount that he wanted. All that he was asked to do in return was to sign a stamp paper mortgaging his property as security for the loan. My father never understood the terms and conditions of the loan and simply signed the paper, got the money, and returned to the village fully prepared to celebrate the marriage of his daughter within the next 10 days. When he arrived back from Kumbakonam, he came with loads of provisions required for the marriage, all purchased using the money he had borrowed. He was so innocent that he did not realize the seriousness of mortgaging land and borrowing money without a plan for repayment of the loan. On the other hand, he was all smiles at his new-found wealth. On the day of the wedding, I was very much attracted to a heap of jaggery, good, a confection of dates, cane sugar, and palm sap that was kept where the rituals were being performed. Without anyone noticing it, I pinched a piece and ran to the backyard of the house to savor it in private. Unfortunately, halfway through eating it, the jaggery fell from my hand onto the floor, which was muddy and dusty. Unwilling to let it go, I took it to an open well behind my house to wash it and eat the rest. While doing so, I had unfortunately fell into the well. It was deep enough to drown me, and the fear of death made me cry for help, and someone hearing the commotion came to rescue me. I still do not remember what happened to the jaggery. Going to get our paddy converted into rice at the rice mill in Ohio was an occasion I always looked forward to. It gave me an opportunity to ride a bullock cart that carried the bags of paddy, and there was the prospect of getting some sweets to eat on the way back home. By this time, 1943-1944, life in the village became difficult as the yield from my father's farm did not meet the requirements of the family. Thanks to Sesatri, the son of my father's cousin sister, Sesatri is my cousin as well. We call this relationship a thun. My father left the village and moved to the capital city of Madras state. The capital was also called Madras, and it is about 200 miles from our village. My father took my mother, younger sister, and brother and moved away to Madras, leaving me in the village in order not to disrupt my studies. I left in the care of my mother's elder sister's daughter, Rajam. She married a widower who was possibly twice her age or even older. He ran a shop selling kerosene in Kodavasal. Even though they were allowed to move into our village house as a compensation for taking care of me, Rajam's husband was unwilling to tolerate me in the house and started beating and ill-treating Rajam for accepting me into the family. This unbearable situation in the house, combined with a case of measles that struck me at the same time, made me seek refuge in the house of a non-Brahmin, Siva Sankaran Pillai, who used to till our farm for a lease rent. I spent the rest of that academic year in his house. I was treated very well by his wife, who was incidentally also called Rajam, and their children. The eldest and the second eldest of the children were Vinambal, who also was in the same class as I was, and Sambandam. They were my age group, and it was easy for me to live in their midst. When I completed the 8th grade, Sivasankaran Pillai took me to Madras and handed me over to my parents. That was my first experience of traveling by train. In those days, the number of trains that ran between Kumbhakonam and Madras was far less than now. As a result, the train was overcrowded. I sat by the window for the entire journey of nearly 10 hours. We alighted at Egmore station and took the electric train to Beach station. My father was there to receive us. We then took a bus to go to Tondiarpet in Chennai, where my parents were living. This all happened before daybreak, and I remember the twilight in which we were going to Tondiarpet. Our final destination was 13A Konokapillai Street, the house where my parents were living as a tenant, among many others. The place was very small and overcrowded. My parents and we three siblings were living in that house for a few days. It is my recollection that the rent paid to that house was rupees 6 per month. Very close to the place where we lived was a military barracks. As it was after the war and the military continued to be kept in preparedness, they did their daily drills and I watched them with great admiration. Gradually, I became bold enough to go closer to their building. I remember occasions when the military personnel used to give their extra bread or biscuits to me from their window. I used to feel proud if I got a loaf of bread from them. I was too young to realize that it was virtually begging. The time soon came when I had to get admitted to a school for my further studies. I was to join the ninth grade. My father thought that it would be better to move our residence to a place nearer to his office and nearer to the school. By then, my father had joined the Department of Public Distribution Civil Supplies through the influence of one of our relatives. That was Seshadri's sister's Pankajam, husband Mr. Chakrapani Iyengar, who was already working in that office and found a suitable vacancy for my father. Just after the war, there was a serious economic depression and everything was in short supply. A strict rationing of food and kerosene was introduced by the government. My father had a role to play in allocating the items for sale to licensed shopkeepers. This position and contact helped us to live without difficulty as the recent items were available to us more easily than to others. His place of work was in the collector's office in Georgetown on the first line beach just opposite the Madras harbour. I got admission to ninth standard in the Muthialpet High School, Tambuchetti Street, Georgetown, Madras. This admission was made possible by the help of one Mr. Bassam Iyengar, who was running a benefit fund, every man's benefit fund, and was living close to the school. He was related to my mother's younger brother, Ranganath Iyengar, Rangana Mama, through his wife. To be able to walk the distance to the school and my father's office, we found a house to live in 105 Coral Merchant Street, Georgetown, Madras. It was a single-storied house with only one room on the first floor. We moved in there. Our portion consisted of a kitchen, a bedroom, and a small veranda on the ground floor of the house for which we paid a rent of rupees 10 per month. The house had three or four more tenants. The owner of the house was a widower who had two sons. The lady lived with the elder son on the ground floor, while the second son lived on the first floor. The brothers hated each other. The poor old lady was totally dependent on her elder son and his family. The younger son got married long after we moved into that house. The place did not have electricity, but a corporation water supply was available at restricted hours. The house also had a well, which was on the back portion of the house where the owner lived. Almost every other day, there was some quarrel either between the tenants or between the tenants and the elder son of the owner. We are not supposed to move outside our portion, and hence as access to the well water was outside the purview of our tenancy agreement. Any attempt to go to that side of the house where the well was situated would easily start a quarrel that would sometimes last the whole day. It would sometimes look as though a quarrel in the house was essential to digest the food eaten. Under these circumstances, our life in the new environment began, moving from a remote village in the south of Madras state to the capital city and to get into a school that was already nearing its centenary year was an unimaginable change for us. My brother and sister got admitted to the ARC Ramaya Chetti secondary school that was on the same street where we lived and was just a 3 or 4 minute walk from our house. The very first day in the school started off with some confusion when I was interviewed by the headmaster. I was asked about the medium of education, English or Tamil. I did not understand the question properly and mistook it be about my second language preference. At the board high school in Kodavasal, I had Sanskrit as my second language. I could not either understand the language or its grammar, which was beyond my comprehension. When I was confronted with the question by the head of the new school, I imagined that if I answered that Sanskrit was my second language, all my subjects, history, geography, science, etc., would be in that language. Already so much afraid of that language, I preferred to say that Tamil, which is my mother tongue, would be my second language. We'll continue. Thank you very much for your patience. Request for like, share, and subscribe.